because I got a lot of tweets last night telling me, you going to be quiet about this? You going to be quiet about this? What is going on with Matt Araiza, the punter for the Buffalo Bills? He and others claimed him as the punt god was his nickname. He is obviously disgusting. The sounds of it are terrible. That is not something that any position in football or any league or any human would want to be associated, humans that do that particular act. I obviously don't know all of the details. I don't know who does, but reading the initial reports and what is being said is terrible. And I have no clue how this pans out. I guess he is with the team tonight. The Buffalo Bills take on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina tonight, alongside a bunch of other games that are taking place, 3 other games. So that is my thoughts on it. I am just like every other human that read that and was like, that's disgusting. Then you start looking into the rules and laws in California. Seems like this is going to be, it's a civil thing now. It's going to be criminal. It is terrible. I wish that upon nobody. Hate that our position is even a part of it. And I hate that I put a guy over and this happens just a couple weeks ago. The Bills allegedly knew about this a month ago or something like that. You would have to think that a lot of the NFL teams who hire investigators, former high-end police officers to protect their team and do questions before the season or before the combine process with the draft prospects, you would assume that other teams also knew about this, which might also add into why he dropped down the draft board. The Baltimore Ravens only had Jordan Stout on their draft board. And if you remember, Harbaugh came out and said, our team has made a stance here in the last decade that we're not even taking chances on anybody that could potentially do that. You add that into the thought. Did teams know this before draft, before he came into the NFL? There's a lot to unfold. It's all very, very serious, and I don't think any of us know what the future looks like. But it seems to be like we are probably not going to see Matt Araiza ever again. Just from the sounds of it right now. There's an entire process to this that we all have to remember. It gets difficult to remember because the world that we live in, it seems like a lot of research has been done already on the prosecuting side with text messages and phone calls with investigators next to Doe, the victim in this situation. So I, alongside everybody else, saw it and was disgusted and flabbergasted by it. And I don't know what else to say other than you read through it and every new piece of information, you're like, oh my God, that is terrible. How's that happening? But you would assume that is no knowledge from people around the NFL before the draft.
Yeah, it's awful. And apparently the Bills were not aware, at least I read, they were not aware of this when they drafted him, but were made aware of it like a month ago. And obviously it's not the same thing. They're two completely different things, but I just feel like this coming on the heels of all the Deshaun Watson stuff, like they're not going to just let this like slip through the cracks where stuff like this might have in the past. You know, it's like luckily we're in a time right now where it's like they're going to get to the bottom of this, and if he is to be held responsible, like I think you're right, we're probably not going to see him around ever again.
This is a civil lawsuit happening right now, but if you watch any criminal law docs or TV shows, that does not mean that the criminal can't come afterwards.
No.
There's actually numerous situations where the prosecuting attorney sits in on the civil court case and hears anything if they can have in there, and then they decide during the case almost that we are also pressing criminal charges that you would have to assume Araiza and the 2 other men that were also San Diego State football players, I believe.
Yes.
And there's numerous quotes from students. Like, everybody had heard about this and knew about this around campus. A lot of people were wondering how this wasn't something that was being taken seriously. And he was being celebrated a lot.
Oh yeah,
like a lot.
He was the star player on their team.
Wall Street Journal wrote an article, the first punter ever to be marketable or something.
That's right.
Like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of situations that he was being put in the spotlight, and I assume around San Diego State and the victim's family, it was like that was probably something that was very, very serious. Once again, we do not know the entire story. Nobody does. But what we are reading and hearing about is certainly fucking alarming and disgusting.
Yeah, and like we saw with Watson, the civil to criminal trials, like how they started with the civil, and then there was 2 or 3 counties that filed the criminal where he had to move and do that entire process. But even if the Bills did find out a month ago, like why would they release the other punter he was in a competition with this week?
That's what I don't know.
Like that's what doesn't make any sense to me, because like sure they might not have known when they drafted him and everything, but they definitely knew within the last 2 weeks, the last 3 weeks, and then 2 days ago is when they released Hack, and then the Colts picked him up?
So I did not hear that the Bills did not know whenever the draft happened. That's why it's like an advantage to have good people working for your business. Like that's an advantage. If the Ravens knew that this was happening and they were going to get a punter, they knew Sam Cook probably done, we're moving on to a punter, that particular unit in the building, whether it's the security unit, the investigative unit, the psychology unit, whatever the unit is, that is a massive advantage if they were able to find that out. Now, not giving that information to everybody is certainly something to think about, but the Buffalo Bills, those are going to be some hard questions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's not going to go away anytime soon. This is the beginning of the season, and it feels like we're just learning about it. There's going to be more and more details that go out. We assume it's all going to be terrible, and we apologize mightily to anybody that's been affected.